Good evening and welcome to the Balanced Excellence Show. My name is VJ Stanley. This is my partner JB Conti. And we start off with a positive story of the week, and this one doesn't have anything to do with athletics. My wonderful wife is a special ed kindergarten teacher, and they're having a play day on Friday, March something. And they want to, as a building, they have 3 floors, they want to structure the whole thing. They don't want kids going this, that, and the other way. And they're going to get a whole schedule for them of a day of free play. So my little 5'2" Irish Spitfire of a wife sent out an email and said, well, if it's free play, there shouldn't be structure. And she had excellent reasons. Let them go to different rooms, try different things. The adults kind of stay away. Well, there was some concern about kids going up and down floors, which I understand, not knowing where they were. So I said, well, just put the TAs at either end of the hall, but make them a station. Make one's a drinking, for water or juice, or one for another. So anyway, they're going to do it. But they're only going to do it on the one floor. So I, because this is what I do, am going to go over there and get a report, and hopefully next week I will have a report for you. But I think it's just great when you saw my wife's enthusiasm for this, JB, and it wasn't for her per se. It was, we have one day of free play for the year, and we're going to structure it and schedule it. So as I rant and have done this thing, and my poor, wonderful wife has been incredibly supportive of this journey of me trying to change the culture. So has JB. Can't thank JB enough. Gary at Rock Sports Net has been fantastic, our producer. But they're going to have play, free play. Now, in Finland and Iceland, and I believe it's New Zealand, they're already doing this. So there's another suburban school district I heard is starting to do it. But this is going to be, just let the kids go, different rooms, and there's kindergarten, first, and second grades, JB, all in this one hall. So they're going to get to interact with older and younger kids. And what JB and I have talked about is that it's now the older don't play with the younger because the younger parents don't want the older kids to beat them. And then that looks bad, and then the other parents don't want because they want the kids to get blah, 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 blah. But anyway, they're going to do it. They're going to have a play day. And what really bothers me most about this thing is that it's an anomaly.
Right, and we should point out that when we say free play, we don't mean unsafe play or
Correct.
or totally unsupervised. It's going to be, safety would certainly be
Friend of mine
first and
calls it
foremost.
interested loitering.
Yeah, exactly.
adults.
So kids will be able to seek their own level of joy, their own activity, and and trigger their own enthusiasm, and it won't be something that will be force-fed them. You're going to sit here, and you're going to enjoy playing with those blocks. Now start, and you're going to be doing it for the next 12 minutes. Begin.
Yes.
So right. It was interesting to see how they report back to us.
Yeah, they're kindergarten, first, and second grade, and I'm just gonna we call them kindergarten now. My wife's one of the kids comes up to her and says, "I end every one of my sentences with a pyramid." Instead of a pyramid. So they have this minimal attention span. So now there's going to be all these rooms, bees, that they're going to set up different stations like art or music or something, and the kids can go and actually embrace the fact that they're children without having to be if I like this, I can go here. But then they can leave and they find something maybe else they don't like. They can go back to the first.
What a great idea, huh?
Yeah.
I can crayon for 15 minutes, and then I can go finger paint for 10 minutes. You know what? I really like crayoning. I'm going back to that. And geez, I haven't tried the blocks yet, and there's electronic stimulation over there. I'm going to go over there and play with that keyboard and iPad, and let them seek their own level of it. That's a great idea.
And just as before we go to break, look at the smiles on JB. I mean, we're both in our 60s. Look at we're laughing and smiling how great this is for the kids.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, try it. As JB said, make it safe, but it's starting to take hold. The kids want it. It's good for the teachers. We think this is just a wonderful, wonderful, positive story.
Look forward to hearing your follow-up on that.
We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to my quote of the week. People like to say that youth sports and the ensuing injuries are a social phenomena. I say they're a man-made disease.
It's a good lead into our interview, and those words will ring loud and clear as we proceed through this podcast and with this interview that's coming up. But they can be prevented and should be prevented because they're made by people like you and me and our fellow parents out there.
And when we do the two dads at the fence today, we're going to be doing an injury escalation thing where we actually hear the parents bragging about, well, my son has a fist. Well, when we get there, we'll do it. But what I find very interesting is one of the statistics that has been brought to me. Well, the first one that really always bothers me is that 90% of the kids born after the year 2000 have not been without adult supervision or instruction for more than 10% of their lives. It's just so foreign to me. But I understand. But please don't tell me it's normal, because it's not. It may be a new norm, but it is not normal. Kids can play by themselves. They prove it every day. But the one that really bothers me that pertains to this, JB, which is then going to go with Jim Sanders, the chief of pediatrics. Can't thank him enough for spending time with us from that incredible busy schedule he has at URMC. But last year, 1.3 million kids went to the hospital with overuse injuries. 800,000 of them were never touched. Now, you could say 50,000 tripped, a ball, a skate rut, accidents happen. So even 50, but that would have been 750,000 kids. And what we say is most catastrophic injuries happen way before the catastrophic injury happens. Is it?
It makes sense.
Okay.
It makes sense.
And so what we're saying, and JB, and you'll hear from Dr. Sanders shortly, but what we're trying to say is people, rest, multiple activities, and the new thing now is, okay, they've taken the multiple activities and just as we do in America, supersize it. Mm-hmm. Well, he is. He's playing multiple sports. He has his school lacrosse team here, and then he goes and plays AAU basketball, and then he's got baseball practice, at 9 o'clock. We're home every night by 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let a kid be a kid.
And you know what? We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. This next segment is our interview with Dr. James Sanders, the Chief of Pediatrics of the University of Rochester Medical Center. We're with Dr. James Sanders, Chief of Orthopedics and Pediatrics at the University of Rochester Medical Center. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, VJ.
How long have you been in the doctor business?
Over 20 years.
And in that time, there is a difference, a major difference, in how you're having to treat patients and what you have to treat and how you actually have to talk to the people that work for you. Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement.
And how is that?
Well, when I first went into practice, I would see a number of children who had athletic injuries. Sometimes they would be from repetitive type of things, but we could always guarantee that repetitive activity was going to change because they were going to change their sports season fairly soon. Now you don't see that. You see them continuing with the injuries, the same pattern going on all of the time, and that same sport never discontinues.
And you just said something critical to what we're talking about here at Frozen Shorts, is that you knew they were going to change sports, and you said it knowing that there was a cause and effect. Could you explain that to our listeners, please?
Sure. Every activity involves repetitive activities. So if you're running soccer, you're going to be doing the same thing time and time again. If you're doing gymnastics, you're doing the same thing time and time again. And bones and muscles are living structures, but they are also mechanical structures. They get injured, and in a biological structure, it can heal itself. But if you keep repeating the same activity again and again and again, then the mechanical structures of the bones, the muscles, and the ligaments no longer have that chance to heal up between times by doing some other different activity.
and including the growth plates, there is a period of rest that the children have to have because they are in a continually developing mode that is at the low end of the development scale.
Yes.
So how is it that you now talk to your doctors, to your patients differently?
So the patients now, as opposed to you're going to be changing sports, is you have to end up doing some form of cross-training. You have to lay off of your sport for a period of time for us to be able to get this to heal up well. So there's a lot more discussion now that you have to go into other activities and that you really have to lay off your sport.
Bees, take it away.
I like what he said. If we could be a fly on the wall in his practice 20 years ago, we probably would have heard something to the effect of, okay, your shoulder's sore from overuse here. You've pitched a lot this season. You've got another week of the season left. Why don't you shut it down because in 2 weeks you're going to be playing soccer. So that'll be a nice transition, and then we'll readdress this later in the year before baseball starts. Instead, what he's hearing 20 years later is, he had his travel program, he had his school program, his shoulder's really tender. I think my son should shut it down for a week or two, but how soon can we get him back out there, Doc? And that's kind of the dichotomy that this Dr. Jim has seen transition over the last 15, 20 years.
And the thing that's striking about, to me, to this whole interview, and we actually have another segment with him because we think this one is so great. But what also strikes me big time about this, JB, is that he knows he's getting repeat business. He knows before, and I didn't ask him, but he knows before he even goes into the room to see the patient and the parents that no matter what he says, the odds are that they're going to come back. I have to say this, people. I just cannot, as the expression, wrap my brain around it. It just...
From a business standpoint, these orthopedic surgeons should be corporate sponsors of these elite travel programs and tournaments. Like, put me down for $2,500. I'm in. Let me get the exposure. So, from strictly from a business standpoint, but I think he understands the phenomenon that is driving a good part of his practice and his industry.
And the thing is, I laugh, but the thing is, you can see, when I was doing the interview, you can see the frustration. I mean, he's very calm, but you can see in his tone, in his body language, that he is frustrated with this because it's so foreign to him. I mean, the body is just, JB and I say this all the time, the mind, the body are just amazing. And JB has said it over and over. The body is so smart, it can heal itself, the brain. But you can see, I mean, he is the chief. He's in charge of the whole, so he's in all the stuff that comes through there, comes by his desk, and you can just see the frustration in him. Or if it's not frustration, it's like,
well, all these physicians, physicians are told to be a successful physician, you have to emotionally distance yourself from your patient. However, he's also very compassionate, and he knows that so much of what he sees could be avoided. So it's quite a comparison there.
but your dad was a doctor.
Yeah, and he often said, you can't get emotionally involved with your patients, and so he might superficially seem to be a very stoic, insensitive person. Well, certainly he's not bawling like a baby at your bedside as in your time of need and despair, but obviously he's compassionate, and he realizes that why are you bringing me this child again and again? Simply what you should do is back off, give him rest, and let the body rehab instead of looking for the magic pill.
And truly, to be the chief, he's at the top of the food chain, however you want to describe it in my terrible use of English. But this guy who has risen to the top is just said to our, well, worldwide audience, if you're watching, you can watch it from anywhere, the simple truth, the simple answer is rest. It just...
Yeah. Yeah.
I have all these medical degrees. I have all this experience. I have all these doctors.
None of it is any good as simple rest.
We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to this segment. Two dads in the stands, two dads at the fence, two dads, as JB has renamed it, the two knuckleheads. This segment, JB and I are watching a game. Again, they're 12-year-olds, and there's been a rash of injuries on the team. It's basketball for whatever you think is funny, but this one, it's going to be basketball. And JB really and I aren't paying any attention to the game. We're just going to one-up each other with what we're doing and what others are doing. Here we go. Boy, I got to tell you, JB, another game. This is the fourth game this weekend.
Yeah, well, and then I think we've got 5 or 6 more next weekend as well. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
And, geez, did you hear about Dave's kid, Donnie?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
what happened to Donnie's kid?
He he's our best player, and last weekend, that's why he's not here. Last weekend, he left us and went over to play lacrosse, and he tripped on the turf. It was indoors, and tore his knee ligament.
Oh dear, that's too bad. Oh my goodness. I wonder if he ought to go to your doctor there. What was his name?
Oh, Dr. Vinny Gumbatz?
Yeah. I heard that a lot of kids go to him, and he gets them back and running and playing. Oh, that's a good guy. We go to Dr. Gino Puccinelli, and
good Irish name.
Yeah. Well, he likes to get these kids up and running, and hopefully he can keep us healthy and keep playing these games.
Well, you got a personal trainer too, don't you?
Yeah, we got a speed trainer and a personal trainer. Yeah, we double up on that, and Eddie's had some issues there with his ankles and his knees, but I think he comes home, we give him usually 3 or 4 Advil, put him to bed, and we do that probably 3 or 4 times a week, and it seems to be servicing him real well.
Well, I heard, when we were in the stands last week in Cincinnati, I was listening to the other parents on another team, and their team has a sports psychologist. How great is that?
That would, we don't have one of those.
No,
we ought to
we
have
don't
one.
have. I didn't want to say anything to the coach because the kid got hurt. It's coach's son.
We'll talk to Kevin. He's got the treasury. Maybe in that $4,500 number that we gave, maybe there's money for some psychiatric or some development work on that. Psychologist that can travel with us. Try the Skyline Chili in Cincinnati, by the way.
Is it good?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, what happens when my wife drives home with me though? I'm gonna have
That's
to
her
have the windows
problem.
open.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2 knuckleheads in the stands. Don't try this at home.
Welcome back to our newest segment. And viewers, if you have any comments or segments that you think that you'd like us to do, you can reach me, vj@frozenshorts.com.
Or jbconti.cfp@aol.com.
This week and the following weeks, what we're going to do is what's in the news. Now, what's in the news that you're seeing may not be what's in the news that we're seeing, because if you've been following us, you know that if everybody's going left, JB and I are going right, that's just the way we do things. And we have for as long as we have known each other. So Greg Olsen, the tight end for the Carolina Panthers, one of the top 5 in football, so which means he's one of the top 5 in the world, recently sat down and did an interview about specialization, and he went off. You can go on social media and find it. Greg Olsen, tight end, Carolina Panthers on specialization. And he just rips. And he even talks about the mental part. What JB and I have talked about is the kids are getting different parents. They're getting different coaches. They're doing different things. The specialization doesn't work. They have coping skills. And so what we're going to do each week now is we're going to bring one pro athlete. And this week it just happens to be Greg Olson. But we're going to bring a pro athlete that played multiple sports through high school. We're going to call it the multiple sport athlete of the week who made millions. So he really gets after it. And you can see through the interview that, again, like Dr. Sanders, like you would be, it's just foreign to him that you would do this to a child. As I started the first segment with the positive thing, is structure-free play. Mm-hmm. And so Greg Olson is talking about is that the multi-sport athlete is really, really valuable.
You're seeing it. We're starting to see the pendulum swing back a little bit, and college coaches are ingratiating themselves, if that's a word, with the multi-sport athlete. So it's nice to see that. I also like the fact that football has recently decided that, you know what, maybe putting pads and helmets on 7 and 8-year-olds and letting them slam into each other isn't a good idea. Maybe we can retool our approach to the younger age level and make it just as much fun, if you will, and a little bit safer than letting them bang their craniums together 5 or 6 days a week at the age of 7 or 8. What's so funny?
I got to say this, Bees. You and I have known each other forever. And I understand I'm whacked. And I understand I'm crazy.
No argument here.
No, there shouldn't be. This is one of the times where I want you to agree with me. But I am just stunned that this is so difficult to comprehend.
Well, it's starting to swing. It's starting to, I just spoke to a woman this morning who, she said, I have to go to, Orlando, because her 15-year-old freshman son made the varsity or will be going down with the varsity baseball team. And her words were, these parents on the baseball team, they're nice people, but it's not typically who I want to spend my family vacation with, and certainly not in Orlando, Florida. So she's starting to I felt like I was speaking to the choir here in her case, but people are starting to realize the insanity that's around youth sports.
Our last segment, JB, with your rant.
My rant. Oddly enough, if you can believe this, I'm drawing a blank, but it's coming to me, and I have it. I recently attended, I almost blacked out there and forgot my rant. I attended a playoff basketball game. This would have been a semifinal championship game in a very desirable arena here in Rochester, New York. It's called the Rochester War Memorial in tribute to the men and women that served our country. Actually, there's a corporate name that I won't refer to it as. Rochester War Memorial, probably a crowd of 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people in this game. A big event for these student athletes. The eventual winner of the game had a comfortable lead throughout the game, usually 15, 20, 25-point lead throughout the game. It did get whittled down to 7 or 8 points, but it was quite apparent who was going to win this game. About 4 minutes left in the game. The eventual winning team is up by 20, 25 points. I'm watching the coach on the losing team, waiting for him to look down his bench at the seniors who played minimally throughout the year and give them one shining moment, if you will, to close out their senior career.
And not 30 seconds either.
No, substantial.
It's an insult, coaches.
Let them go out in front of their friends and their family for a couple minutes, 3 minutes. The game is obviously who's going to win this game. And at the end of that game, he had one senior, two juniors and two sophomores on the court, and the end of his bench had 4 or 5 seniors who had been to every practice and committed themselves to this team. And quite personally, I think the coach failed the institution. I think he failed the game. I think he failed those young men who were so faithful to his program and to him.
And the coaching profession.
Yeah, it
There's
was
more
sad.
to it than that.
It was sad. I was hoping that in this one moment he would have cleaned out his bench and let them finish their career. But shame on the coaches that play it that way and can't see the bigger picture.
Excellent, JB. And I just want to add one thing before we close. Is once again, what really bothers JB and I about this is, yes, it is the situation, but it's not an anomaly.
Yeah.
They're so we call it TV coaching. They're so wrapped up in it. What you want to do, it's very simple. You call a timeout. You take all 5 of your guys out, and all 5 of those guys come in, and they all get announced, and it's great. And they play the last 4 minutes because they have to go back to school the next day, walk down the hall, and be in front of everyone. So, and what they do is TV coaching is they don't want this in the newspaper. Instead of losing by 20, they lost by 35, or conversely, if they're up by 20, and I've heard coaches say this, oh, I get nervous. No, play the kids. This isn't about you. If you're not here, the game still goes on. But those seniors will remember that for the rest of their lives. Thanks for watching. That's our show. We'll see you next week.